Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Some of you know me as Triangle Investor from X. I'm very glad to have the CEO of Energy Fuels, Mr. Mark Chalmers, back to my show. Mark, thank you for coming. It is great to have you.
It's always great to be on your show.
Thanks. Mark, let's kick off with the uranium market. A lot of things are rolling right now. Russian ban, US to start 3.4 billion buy of domestic fuel, waivers, and much more. A lot of things to talk about, but let's start with 3.4 billion US government funding for the uranium enrichment. Will that amount be sufficient for complete cutoff from Russian supply?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, if you look at, the nuclear fuel cycle and having full integration at scale, it takes time and money. And I think the biggest positive here is you're seeing bipartisan support and getting this funding in place, and to at least start taking these steps to be more independent. But if you go back over many years ago, back in the days of the Manhattan Project, with money spent on the infrastructure, then it probably was far in excess of what we're talking about right now in terms of this initial funding. But it's an important step. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, the 2.7 billion, is that to buy yellow cake or just enriched uranium?
Well, it's mainly focused on the back end of the market, mainly enrichment and into conversion, and we hope also including some of the uranium for the nuclear fuel supply stockpile. But yeah, I think it's mainly focused on the back end, but it's putting some light on the front end as well too.
Yeah, that was actually my question. How do you think that your company could benefit from that program specifically?
Well, I think number one is the bipartisan support and the realization that we've become overly dependent on the Russia, and we need to wean off of that. And so I think those are all positive steps. I mean, right now our company drives its own bus. I mean, uranium prices are high. We've restarted mines. We've got contracts. We've got a strong balance sheet and substantial momentum. I mean, whatever help we get out of the government, we'll certainly consider it or take it if it makes sense for us. But we're not waiting for it, right?
Yeah.
We're not planning around it. We're not putting it into our spreadsheets. I mean, we're running our business based on what we can do now, what the market is now, and so everything we're doing is what we can do now ourselves within our own control.
That is the right approach. I agree definitely. Mark, okay, let's give us some update on your uranium business and operations. What are you doing at the moment, and what are the next steps for the company?
Okay, well, we've restarted production or mining ore at the Pinyon Plain mine in Arizona. This is the highest grade uranium mine, underground mine in the United States, and so we're mining ore there right now. We've restarted mining a number of months ago at the La Salle complex in Pandora. We're getting other mines ready for restart, which includes our Whirlwind project, which is in Colorado. Underground, we're starting to do additional work and drilling at Alta or Nichols Ranch, which is in Wyoming, and we've reinitiated permitting steps on our large Roca project in Mexico, as well as our Bullfrog project and our Sheep Mountain project. So a lot of activity, but we're restarting the projects that we have all the permits for. We're reinitiating permitting activities on our other significant assets for the future, and we've been hiring people, and we're hauling ore to the mill right now and stockpiling ore at the mill, and the yard is filling up with uranium. So if you went to the mill today, you would see a lot of uranium getting ready to be processed later this year.
Okay, you mentioned permitting and other pre-development activities at Roca, Honda, Sheep Mountain, and Bullfrog, but can you give me some timeline on that?
Well, the right now we've been telling we're mining to get to a production rate of between about 1.5 million pounds by the end of this year, and then we're trying to ramp up our existing assets that require almost no capital up to 2 million pounds. When you start looking at our other assets, really, with the exception of the Sheep Mountain project, which is permitted, but it needs to go to a mill. There's a mill in the region called Sweetwater that Rio Tinto has. So there's a number of steps. I can't just tell you exactly what that timeline is for going past the 2 million pounds, but it is a pipeline to get up in time up to about 5 to 6 million pounds per year. But we can certainly get up to 2 million pounds in the near term because those assets are completely ready to go.
Yeah, I have one question from my follower that wants to know what the production numbers you expect at White Mesa Mill for each of the following years, 2024, 2025, and 2026. Can you give some color on that?
Yeah, it'll and again, the one thing that is a little different than some of these ISR projects, like for example, we're mining ore now and we're putting it in a stockpile at the mill. It isn't actually processed yet. And so when you count production, there's kind of a lead lag kind of components to what we say. But we're getting up to, say, 1 million pounds of production this year. Some of that will be at the tail end of the year. We'll start processing that ore. We're ramping up to the 1.5 million and to 2 million pounds. So, I think people should think in terms of about, and again, because you're mining and not processing quite yet until later in the year, but just think in increments of 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million pounds in terms of our existing assets right now. And it could be greater than that, but we have to be careful because we give our guidance out and the guidance has to align. But we're mining between 1 million and 1.4 million this year, are going to be at that rate by the end of the year, going up to the 1.5 million pounds per year. And then targeting up around 2 million pounds per year after that. And then adding some of these other projects that we have, whether it be Sheep Mountain, Bullfrog, or Roca Honda in time, and Whirlwind. Now, Whirlwind can come online in that mix as well, too. But we're also, and these are things that are different from other companies, we're also going to be processing alternate feeds, which can be a few 100,000 pounds per year. And we will be processing alternate feeds, which is natural uranium that we can process at the mill, and we've done for a couple decades. We're going to be processing some of that this year. And we're also been talking to other parties about possibly purchasing ore from some of the regional mines in the area. So, it's not just how much are you producing from this mine to the processing. We have multiple sources of opportunities to make finished product at the White Mesa Mill and at Nichols Ranch.
Yeah, I will ask you more about it a little bit later. But before that, can you tell me how many pounds of uranium you have under the offtake agreements right now?
It's around 3 million. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it's around 3 to 4 because there's some flex up provisions that we don't know if people are going to flex up, but it's about 3-4 million pounds going out to 2030. It averages about 500,000 or 600,000 pounds a year. It can change from year to year. But if we're producing 1.5 million pounds, that's a third of our production is under contract. If we're doing 2 million pounds, it's 25%. If we're doing 1 million pounds, it'd be 50%. So we still have a lot of room for upside to capitalize on changes in the market, either with new contracts or selling on a spot selectively. But we have enough under contract to ensure that we can run a mine or two right now, regardless of what happens to the price uranium with those existing contracts. In Q1, we sold 200,000 pounds at around $75 a pound under contract. And also in Q1, we sold about 100,000 pounds at approximately $103 a pound. and that averaged out to 300,000 pounds at about $84 per pound. So we'll mix and max and sell into contracts or into the spot market to come up with blended numbers that we think are quite exciting as we go forward.
Yeah, I read your Q1 results, pretty impressive. We will touch also on that a little bit later. Mark, do you plan to speed up contracting in the remainder of 2024? I mean, have you been approached more since the Russian uranium ban took place?
Well, I think with the Russian uranium ban, and that's a positive, people are waiting to see what these waivers look like, right? I mean, how easy will it be for people to get waivers? What does it actually mean over longer term? I mean, it certainly set a stage that there's significant bipartisan support for reducing dependency on Russia. We're gonna look at the contracting market as it presents on a case-by-case basis and go from there. But it's also, that you've got the spot market. So, right now, a little north of $90 a pound in the spot market. Where is it going? So we're gonna try to look at the balance between our long-term contracts in the spot and see what works for us. And but we're in an excellent position with zero debt, the balance sheet we have, which I think is the strongest in the sector outside of Cameco. And our long-term proven history of producing uranium, and so we're really driving the uranium space for all the right reasons right now.
And you will remain uranium-focused company, just to get clear on that.
I've been producing uranium for 48 years, and my wife says I'll never quit focusing on uranium, and she's right. So, I love the uranium space, and we'll continue to be a uranium-focused company. So we have no discussion in our company to exit uranium space. Yeah. Absolutely none. And when people kind of assume that that's where we're going, that's 180 degrees from where we're going as a company.
Yeah. Okay, my wife also tells me that I will never leave uranium, so we are similar here. Mark, few questions about your mill. Will you keep the vanadium circuit and process vanadium as well?
Well, it depends on the price of vanadium. I mean, we have the only conventional vanadium circuit. We're mining uranium vanadium ores right now. I mean, there's uranium vanadium ores going outside of the mines literally as we speak. With the lower price of vanadium, in the $5 range. I mean, if we don't recover it, it just goes out to our tailings, and we can always pump it back and recover it later. So again, the unique thing about Energy Fuels is we can produce uranium, vanadium, and rare earths in ways that nobody else can. So we'll either recover the vanadium or we'll put it out in tailings and we'll recover it later. We still have about 900,000 pounds of finished vanadium that's ready to be sold when the price is right. And but we are mining uranium vanadium ores right now.
Okay. You mentioned third-party ore. Mark, do you have an approximate idea of the number of companies that could deliver uranium ore to the mill? And do you have anything formalized?
Well, I don't know the number. I don't think it's many because a lot of time has gone between a lot of these times since a lot of these mines actually produce uranium. I was at a Western Small Miners Association meeting a little over a week ago in Natarita and met with a number of interested parties, and we publicly said that we were looking at a buying schedule, not a toll milling agreement, but a buying schedule, and we do have some parties that are interested in potentially taking us up on that. So, I mean, how much is it going to be? I mean, in terms of quantity and amount of uranium, I don't know, but there are at least one or two parties that likely have some ore that we could purchase. And when we purchase the ore, I just want to clarify that when we purchase that ore, it's our ore. So when we process it, it goes to our account in terms of how we sell it into contracts or the spot market. So it's been commonly done at the mill over years, is commonly done in the region over years. And we're just basically repeating what was done for decades in that region.
Mm-hmm. One of the clients, probably Western Uranium. When do you expect to have an ore purchase agreement in place with them, with Western Uranium?
I'm not gonna speculate on that. We have, as I said, we were at the meeting, and there were a number of companies there that were talking to us, and we don't have an agreement done with anyone until we have an agreement done. But there is one operable mill, and it's White Messa in the region. If people want to sell some of the uranium ore, we're the only option in town for the foreseeable future, and we'll just take it a step at a time.
Okay, fair enough. Mark, when fully operational, White Messa, to what degree will you have the capacity to increase or decrease production capacity on uranium, rare earths, or vanadium? I mean, if uranium prices came down after a big spike and rare earths started to become more profitable to produce, for example, can you expand on that, please?
Well, right now we're commissioning our phase 1 separation plant, and it's going really well. But what our plans are right now is to commission the phase 1 separation plant, and then once we're confident we have it commissioned, in a few months' time, we will switch the mill back over to processing uranium, and we will process as much uranium as we can over the next couple of years, 2-3, probably next year and a half to 2.5 years. We'll process uranium while we still have the phase 1 separation plant ready to produce and to process rare earths as we secure rare earth monazite at the site. So this is where we have this unique flexibility. But right now, the price of the rare earths are down from where they were a couple of years ago. So commissioning the phase 1 plant, switching back to uranium where uranium prices are high, and running that while we get everything else in order for improved rare earth markets and securing larger scale, which obviously you've seen some of the announcement that we've had as of late, which we're doing. So right now we're going to push uranium business because that is where things are most profitable for us right now, and we have the mines and the momentum right now, while we get the rest of these pieces to the puzzle put together in the rare earth sector.
Okay, you recently announced the acquisition of Base Resources. Can you tell me what are the key benefits for your company with this deal, and how do you feel about the Madagascar as a jurisdiction?
Well, we're excited. I think this is one of the most exciting places or acquisitions in the rare earth space and the heavy mineral sand space in a number of years. We're really excited about it because, number one, it's a well-known world-class deposit that has a lot of monazite. I've been talking to our shareholders on a number of these interviews for a couple of years, saying that we're out looking for sources of monazite, and we're working on that. Well, here's an announcement that says, hey, we've signed binding papers for this combination with Base Resources. I mean, what we like about it is it's a large-scale, world-class project. Once it's up and operating, should have very robust cash flows from both the heavy mineral sands and large quantities of monazite that would go to the White Messa mill that really kind of completes a missing link on really large-scale quantities of monazite at very, very attractive prices, if not for free. And it's a project that fits perfectly with us because Base Resources has a mine called Kwalia in Kenya that is coming to the end at the end of this year. So what happens is we have the Toliara project in the queue. There's still some agreements that we have to get in place, or Base has to get in place, or combined company gets in place with the Madagascar government. But at the same time, we end up with a complete project team to help us on our project in Bahia in Brazil, and also assist with a joint venture of the Donald project if we close that in Australia. So it gives us momentum and expertise and a project team that is proven at developing heavy mineral sands, and it puts our foot on the Toliara project in Madagascar, which we think is an outstanding opportunity for the country and for Energy Fuels and for the Base team to go forward with.
Okay. I get the part that you are looking or watching the segments of rare earths and uranium, which will perform better and which market are better at the moment, and react upon it. But can you provide me some production timelines and numbers for your rare earth segment? How much of the future revenues will come from this segment, or better to say, what will be the ratio between rare earths versus uranium revenues?
Well, it depends how this rare earth spools up, but I believe that what the combined outcome, I mean, I would not be doing rare earths if I thought that it was going to hold us back from the uranium business. I would not be doing it. Okay. But the combined company with this combined focus is better than just a uranium-only focus business, in my opinion. And I've been doing uranium for 48 years. And we think extraordinary. Okay, now that may be a bit forward looking, and you can go to our page 2 of our forward-looking statements in my presentations. But we believe that the combination of the uranium business and the rare earth business, and these other things like the isotopes and the heavy mineral sands, how that combines comes up with a better outcome at significant scale. I mean, just looking at the Base acquisition on its own, if you look at their DFS and their PFS on the Toliara project, they talk about 350 to 400 million at EBITDA on that project alone. Oh. Well, think about that. That's 3.5 million pounds of uranium at $100 a pound. That's the equivalent of that amount of revenue on the EBITDA alone. Now, we have to get these agreements done with the Madagascar government. So if you look at sort of that as sort of a backdrop on just that acquisition, assuming we get that project, all the agreements, and get it constructed, and then you add on the uranium, and then you add on the hopeful closing of the Donald project in Australia and Bahia, you come up with a very significant outcome here. Very significant outcome. So, I mean, just use sort of what we believe is a proxy, and we can only say so much on information because of listing requirements and disclosure requirements. So we can say about Base's DFS and PFS what they're telling their shareholders, and we believe that those numbers combined with the ability to do further value add at the White Mesa Mill should give people kind of an idea of the overall scale of what we're thinking about here and what we're planning in the strategy going forward.
Okay, you mean like cost of refining, sale price? Do you mean that?
Well, yeah, I mean, because what happens is in the Base documents, they were just looking at selling the monazite. We can take that monazite, we can get it to the mill, and then we can do further value adding to the oxides, which is not included in those studies. So we've got to update all those studies, and so there's a lot of work to be done. But it is again known world-class project that makes more sense for us to have it than for Base to have it at this point in time, because by doing the acquisition, we provide improved capabilities to finance the project. We provide other projects for the Base people to work on while we're getting that project up and running. And if you start looking at sort of the scale up of the heavy mineral sand / monazite, it really starts in about 2026, 27, 28, and it builds over 3 to 5 years time, and ultimately builds to the scale of the molecules are approaching that of Lynas currently. So, I mean, it is a big deal. If people think we're looking at this as a small deal, we're not.
Yeah.
And we've also been able to do a lot of this with limited capital. You know, we're still spending more money on the uranium business than we are on the rare earth business. I mean, we purchased the Bahia project for around $30 million. The Astron project, we're committing up to about $120 million over time. But the first step is we have to do is a final investment decision. There's some more work that has to be done there. And so there'll be a number of steps in that process. And then at the same time, when you look at the acquisition of Base, it's really a paper deal for Energy Fuels. It's about 16, 17% of our stock. They're going to make a special dividend of about $50 million to their shareholders, but they're still going to have cash to complete all the reclamation at the Toliara project and fund a lot of their overheads over the course of the next year or so. Okay. So, I mean, this is not consuming all our cash. So if people think we're spending all our cash on the rare earth space, we're not. And we're spending most of it right now on the uranium business. And this is where it's a very unique story. You can't compare us to another uranium company, single element, because there's no uranium companies that also have a building story that is world scale, we believe, on the side. And you can't compare us to a rare earth company that doesn't have uranium. There is no peer group for Energy Fuels. We are a hybrid between the two, but we are focused on the absolute best outcomes over time with what we're doing.
Yeah, got it. There is not a better person to ask this question. How is actually sentiment, interest for rare earths at the moment?
I think it's
I mean, in the term of possible contracting and interest in contracting.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. I tell people that if you're going to build a rare earth business, it was very difficult 2 years ago when the prices were well north of $100 a kilogram for NdPr, and now's the time to build a rare earth business like we're doing, because there's opportunities. People have difficulty financing, but you start looking at the bipartisan interest from both the U.S. government, the Australian government, the World Bank, the automobile companies, tier ones, looking to the future. So, right now, what we see is in the rare earth space, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to deliver. And, Lynas is established and delivering. MP's been starting up and working towards more integration. And Energy Fuels is right behind catching up, I believe, to some of these other companies. And we're doing it on the back of the uranium, which, last year we had about actually $100 million in net income. We were profitable in Q1, and we're just getting all the pieces together to be profitable as time evolves with the uranium business. We still have a few pieces in terms of timing of when the mill runs and processes uranium, some of our contracts and whatnot. But we are in an excellent position.
Okay, Mark. You said at one interview that you were talking to U.S. high-ranking officers for rare earth production. Can you elaborate on that a bit? And what are you expecting from them and when?
Well, again, we're talking to people, we're keeping them updated with what we're doing, but we're not depending on the government to subsidize this. Okay, I mean, we did talk to a number of people in D.C. With regard to our base proposed combination before we sign that. We've talked to, and I'm not going to go into specific agencies because of confidentiality, but you can just assume we're talking to all those that we should be talking to in DC, including some of the groups that are also interested in possible assistance with finance. Okay, so I think this is where we've approached the rare earths differently. Over the last 2, 3, 4 years, there have been a lot of companies that have gone to DC looking for money first and then kind of try to figure out the plan that they're going to execute second. We've been putting together our plan and executing our plan first and worrying about how do we finance it second or third. So we've been actively building our plan of substance, showing that we're building up a trajectory of around that 5,000 or 6,000 tons of NdPr per year by securing the molecules like we've done with Bahia, signing the agreement with Base and working on final agreements with Astron, and separating at the White Mesa Mill where we built the separation plant. And now we're getting close to the time where we can tell others, whoever they are, when it comes to financing, that we are making huge advances literally by the day, and have those dots connected rather than looking for money in the first instance. One of the reasons we didn't look for money in the first instance is it would slow us down. It would slow us down. We don't want to be out there getting a grant for 20 million and spending all the time to get the next 20 million and not having to do all those steps to secure, sort of interim financing. We have the balance sheet to finance ourselves. Speed is important. That is a big part of what we're doing.
Yeah, Mark, what about skilled labor people? Where will you get the knowledge, skills for your rare earth business? I mean, separating the heavies seems to be a difficult task. Any color on how are you approaching this?
Well, I think we have probably the largest pool of skilled labor in the uranium business. I know we do in the United States, greater than any of the other companies right now. It's probably starting to push towards 200 people. When you talk about the skill sets for rare earths, I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that we have over a 40-year history of using solvent extraction for recovering uranium and vanadium, and we're also using solvent extraction to recover the rare earths. So we have skill sets that others don't have for rare earth recovery. We work closely with NEO, and we were separating or cracking and leaching monazite, shipping that to NEO, and we knew that it was a very high purity carbonate because we were also able to separate out the lanthanum and the cerium and ship them a product that was radioactive free and uranium free, about 35% NdPr. And so we did that with a number of runs that we had at the mill. And so we've proven that we can do that. And now we're doing the separation. And as I said, it's early days, but it's going very, very well. And we believe that this long-term history we have with solvent extraction puts us at a distinct advantage over others.
Okay. We mentioned your company released Q1 results a few days ago, which appear, like I said, to be very strong with net income over 3 million, I believe. The majority of income was from the sale of uranium. And my question is, how much of the inventories do you have still in place?
Well, we have sort of around 400,000 pounds of finished goods right now, and we have around 500 to 600,000 pounds of material yet to be processed. So it's really around 1 million pounds, either finished or to be processed. Now as I said, we have to finish up this commissioning of the phase 1, and then we'll flip the mill back to uranium, and that really kind of drives how much material we'll have to sell either this year and next year, because the sooner we flip the mill over, the sooner we'll be processing more uranium. But in the meantime, we're stockpiling additional ore to process that will be building up, that'll run well into next year. And we're also receiving additional alternate feed. So we've got this is a building inventory of, I mean, the finished goods is at around that 400. And then we have this unfinished material that's building up as we speak. I mean, the trucks, if you went to the mill, you'd be seeing trucks come and go and hauling freshly mined uranium ore to the mill as we speak.
Okay. Mark, what is your current cash position?
Well, our working capital last report was around $220 million. But if you looked at the value of our inventory and whatnot, it was pushing about 240, 250 million. So we're in a very, very strong position. And again, zero debt with about $1 billion worth of assets. A lot of new projects around the world have to go raise hundreds, if not billions of dollars to go into production first. We don't have to do that. Now, once we get past about 2 million pounds of uranium production, we're going to have to start spending more capital on developing some of these other mines. But it isn't $1 billion, I can tell you that. And we can do it in stages.
Yeah, that was my next question. What are your plans to fund the upcoming significant capex? I mean, mill, acquisition of Donald, and other things. What's the plan here?
Yeah. Well, you know, again, now on both Donald and on the Toliara project, some of the first steps is that we have to go to a final investment decision on both those projects, which will take a number of months to complete that. And so that's a final sort of a capital operating cost reviews and putting together sort of like the most recent sort of financials on each of those projects, where we'll have to do that work to make our final decisions on going forward or not. Now, we plan to go forward. That's our intention, because these are great projects. And so, you know, each of these things have step by step. Meanwhile, as we mine the ore from these mines, we're capitalizing that production for the cost of mining and putting that out at the mill for processing. So having that, you know, north of 200 million is one, and revenue is one hell of a good position to be in. So, I mean, looking to the future on the rare earths, you know, our belief is there is going to be sources of non-recourse financing on those projects for particularly a number of, whether it's the United States or Australian government, even some of these other potential off-takers, for financing that we believe will be non-recourse. Now we have to actually secure that. So, you know, I think if people are worried about we're going to just go out and have to dilute them to oblivion, I should say, you know, rest easy right now. We've got the balance sheet that we have, and we certainly are managing the company in the strongest way possible, being aggressive but not reckless. We are not reckless as a company. We are doers. We are doers. And we do what we say we're going to do, and but we also are always looking after our shareholders as we build our company going forward.
Okay, I have two more, and then I will let you go. First one, M&A. Can you tell me, are you searching for new projects, not new commodities? Probably if you're looking for rare earths and uranium projects. And the other part of the question, is there an option that you sell some of your projects?
We're not planning to sell any of our projects right now.
Great.
And if people want to know if we're looking at M&A, well, look at the Astron joint venture, look at the base acquisition, and we will look at whatever. And we're not out of the uranium business. We're not looking at other uranium projects as well.
Okay.
We look at whatever we believe makes sense for our company, utilizing our strengths, our expertise, and our infrastructure to the max advantage of our shareholders.
Good answer. Final question, news flow from the company. What and when can investor expect in the terms of news flow from the company?
Well, there's going to be additional news flow on ramping up our uranium production. We have our AGM coming up, and I think that there will be other news flow in the rare earth sector, and I think it's going to be a very pivotal year for the company in 2024. I think a number of our investors, I was in New York City the last Monday and Tuesday, are starting really to understand the significance of the base combination. And I also want to add, and with something like Toliara and the Donald projects, they contain uranium. We're going to recover uranium from those projects. It's not like we're not building our uranium sources as well. So I believe, and I'm probably biased, but I don't think I am, I think Energy Fuels, if you forget about the rare earths completely and look at our balance sheet, look at what we're doing in terms of ramping up our uranium production, I believe if we're not the best value producer company out there, we're right at the bottom of it. And on the side, look at what we're doing with these acquisitions in the rare earth front and say you get those for free. And those are big potential bonuses in the future. So, as I said, I've been doing this for 48 years. I've mined all over the world. I've probably done more projects than many people that you talk to. Matter of fact, when you find somebody who has produced more uranium from the types of projects I've produced, let me know, please. I would really like to meet them.
Okay, Mark, that's fair. That was CEO of Energy Fuels, Mr. Mark Chalmers. Mark, I wish you luck with all your projects and segments, and thank you for coming to my show.
Thank you.